How do you start your morning? In 1883, H.H. Holmes spent his mornings prepping his upscale guest house to receive patrons for the Chicago World's Fair. But instead of greeting guests and assigning rooms, he'd spend his time back of house, testing trapdoors, scooping human remains out of industrial-sized incinerators, and checking the locks on his in-house gas chamber. Yeah, his guest house wasn't dubbed the Murder Mansion for nothing. H.H. Holmes was born Herman Webster Mudgett in Gilmanton, New Hampshire, circa May 16, 1861. His father was a strict disciplinarian, even by 1860 standards. Oof. Nevertheless, Holmes enjoyed a privileged childhood and was said to be unusually intelligent at an early age. As a child, Holmes dreamed of one thing and one thing only: becoming a doctor. But that required money. Lots of money.
The poor boy's smartest plan was to marry the local rich girl.
Fucking genius. In fact, Holmes was full of so many great ideas that he even devised a plan to make money all on his own, without freeloading off his wife.
Mudgett found that by digging up graves and selling bodies, he could pay for his tuition.
If only he'd known sooner that digging up dead bodies would be more lucrative than digging through his wife's pockets. But although Holmes was full of great ideas, his greatest idea came to him from an unlikely source.
The slayings of America's first serial killer sprang from a fantastic plan that a corrupt janitor had inspired.
What kind of demented medical school was this? Was the dean Victor Frankenstein? Were his professors Burke and Hare?
There was money changing hands here. Doc Nagel would accept a body, even though he knew it may have been obtained in a less than legal manner.
I mean, I know the 1800s were a different time, but a medical staff that purchases cadavers from students? A corrupt janitor that inspires pupils to kill? Don't you vet your fucking staff? Who are these people? Do we have any subscribers who are current medical students? I'd love to hear from you guys. Is this still something like a standard practice today? What would one of your professors say if you just kind of waltzed in, covered in dirt from head to toe, and just kind of tossed a body out on an examination table? Do they have questions maybe, or do you think they just pat you on the back and write you a check? Let me know down below. Anyways, Holmes couldn't stop thinking about what his esteemed professor, the corrupt janitor, told him. It was such a good idea. He'd just fake his own death. I know. Genius, right?
I am the smartest man alive!
But not so fast. Remember, Holmes was married. To pull off such a scheme, his wife would need to be on board to collect the life insurance policy. What to do? Got it. Fuck it. I'll just divorce her. I mean, why not? She already paid for my medical schooling. But now, who's gonna collect this life insurance policy if he dies? Okay, well, I'll just marry another schemer. Rita Belknap. All he had to do now was wait around for someone who resembled him to drop dead, to act as his body. But waiting around at medical school for his dead doppelganger to turn up, gee, that was too tiring.
So boring.
Eventually, Holmes just couldn't take it anymore.
Mudgett's failure to switch himself for a dead man drove him into an attempt to kill himself for real. He was sent to an insane asylum near Philadelphia.
Holmes wasn't about to let a straitjacket keep him down. One day, while bouncing off the walls of his padded cell, he was struck by another brilliant idea.
This is it.
Why wait around for someone to die when murder exists? So what do you guys think he did? Did he hold a look-alike contest and kill the winner? Did he strangle a hobo, a drifter, a rapist, perhaps? No. Holmes reached out to his lab partner, Robert Leacock, with the promise of another janitor-inspired get-rich-quick scheme. When Leacock arrived, Holmes greeted him with a laudanum-laced cocktail. That's basically opium mixed with alcohol. Fun when prescribed by a pharmacist, but deadly when administered by a homicidal maniac.
Mudgett dumped the body, dressed in his clothes and identity papers, to be found by the insurance company.
And just like that, his bank account grew by 20 grand. This is the 1800s, folks. 20 grand? It's a lot of money. Holmes couldn't believe it. All he had to do was murder his best friend. Holmes used the money that he inherited to reinvent himself as a businessman and entrepreneur. He opened a barber shop and pharmacy in Chicago and built a mansion hotel that resembled like a cross between Auschwitz and that dungeon that Kevin Costner and Morgan Freeman escaped from at the beginning of Prince of Thieves. And boy, was business booming.
For 4 years, he murdered his guests, their children, to sell their bodies as dissection specimens.
Even better, he quickly learned that scamming investors and forging checks was a lucrative business. They hand you a check, you tack a couple extra zeros on the end, and presto.
Easy money.
But it turns out that people tend to ask a couple questions when they find out they're short a few grand.
Where's my money? Bitch, huh? Bitch?
Suddenly, Holmes got an idea that would make the demented janitor's chest burst with pride.
I'm just so proud of you.
Why not just murder these people and burn their bodies in the unused kiln in the basement?
Now you're using your head.
Now, forging checks and murdering people and incinerating their lifeless bodies, that was fun and all, but Holmes still had a soft spot for digging up corpses in the middle of the night. Whether it was just feelings of nostalgia or some sort of spiritual calling, Holmes felt that it was up to him to single-handedly revolutionize the grave robbing industry.
Even the coffins were recycled and sold at a profit.
And everything was going great.
His traffic in corpses was in full swing when Holmes says he accidentally murdered yet another doctor he was in business with.
Turns out that beating someone over the head multiple times with a heavy piece of Victorian furniture over an unpaid debt can cause severe bodily harm. So, what do you guys think he did with the body? Did he send a telegram to the demented janitor asking for assistance? Or maybe he just incinerated it and put it in one of his recycled coffins? Nah. He just sold it to the medical school. Again.
2 for 1.
But one day, he got a little greedy and wound up beating a southern speculator to death with a piece of gas pipe, crushing his skull to pieces in the process. Holmes was devastated.
What have I done?
Not because he just murdered an innocent man or anything. He was devastated to learn that the medical school apparently had some standards. Buying a corpse that looked like it washed up on the banks of the Chicago River, that was one thing. But the medical school drew the line when Holmes showed up covered in blood with a brainless body slung over his shoulder. So he needed to find a new way to murder the shit out of as many people as possible without making it look like he murdered the shit out of them. But how? While on his hands and knees cleaning up the skull fragments and pieces of brain from the crime scene, Holmes noticed the piece of bloody gas pipe he used to bludgeon the speculator to death and got an idea so diabolical that it would cause the demented janitor's jaw to hit the floor.
Holmes installed a vault in his top floor office. Gas could be piped inside.
Instead of forging checks and waiting around for the police to show up at his door, now he could just lock potential investors inside his gas chamber and force them to sign over checks.
Get on your fucking knees and sign.
Once they signed the checks over, he would make them promise not to go to the police. Just kidding. He'd just crank open the gas valve and wait for them to stop kicking. But eventually, Holmes grew tired of his boring old gas chamber.
So boring.
So he hired a tradesman to build passageways, trap doors, a human-sized oven, and chutes for disposing of bodies.
What the fuck?
Calm down, I know what you're thinking. What kind of contractor specializes in installing gas chambers, incinerators, and trap doors? I mean, would he hire his demented janitor to come do the renovations? Good guess, but not quite.
Holmes had separate tradesmen build parts of his design, so no one could tell he was shaping the hotel into an abattoir.
Eventually, Holmes cashed in on enough dead policyholders to rake in over $250,000, and he was still selling corpses at the medical schools. He even started recycling skeletons. All he had to do was install a couple of vats in the basement, one filled with carbolic acid to dissolve flesh, and another filled with bleach to whiten the bones.
It's a brilliant synergistic move. Take the bones and articulate them, and then you can sell something you were going to throw out.
What more could you possibly ask for?
Throughout 1892, HH Holmes ran a fully integrated system of murder, corpse preparation, and body sales.
But Holmes' luck was about to run out when the police paid him a visit in 1893 regarding suspicions that he was involved in a money fraud scheme. They grew even more suspicious when they discovered packages containing body parts ready for shipment. I should certainly hope so.
What the fuck is that?
So, Holmes consented to a search of his mansion.
With police closing in on his corpse factory, Holmes set fire to the castle's top floor.
He set fire to the top floor. With the embers still smoldering, Holmes hopped a train to Fort Worth, Texas, with his newest business associate, Benjamin Pitzel. But the two didn't stay long as Holmes found the law enforcement climate in Texas inhospitable. Yeah. Apparently, the state of Texas doesn't take too kindly to grifters who scam and murder innocent women. So, Holmes sent Pitzel up to Philadelphia to open a patent office. The plan was to burn it down, fake Pitzel's death with a graveyard doppelganger again, and collect on the insurance money. Just playing the hits now. But Holmes knew how painful it was to wait around for a corpse to appear.
So boring.
Not to mention, forensic science was getting better by now. If he were to find a body, the cause of death would need to be smoke inhalation. So, he just set Pitzel on fire instead. But now, there was another problem.
When the insurance was paid out, serial killer HH Holmes realized his victim's wife and children could also claim the money.
You can probably guess what happened next. But Holmes finally got what was coming to him when the insurance company grew suspicious of Pitzel's death and sent Philadelphia detective Frank Gaia to track him down.
Police arrested Holmes in Boston, but had no idea he was a murderer.
He admitted to the insurance fraud, but he claimed he didn't murder anyone. He told police that the charred body in their possession, it's just some dusty old corpse I stole from the morgue. Because Pitzel's body was burnt beyond recognition, the police couldn't prove it was him. Holmes simply claimed that Pitzel was still alive and well, living it up in South America.
Now Holmes became a celebrity for pulling off graveyard insurance scams.
Yeah, he wrote a tell-all book while in prison. Like a cross between Mein Kampf and stealing corpses and committing insurance fraud for dummies.
Wow, sounds like a real page-turner.
But Frank Gaia, he wasn't having it. Chicago detectives raided the charred remains of Holmes' murder castle.
You think I did it?
They found the killing vault, blooded women's clothing, and rotted human remains.
While on trial for the murder of Benjamin Pitzel, Holmes confessed.
I guess you got me.
Holmes was hanged on May 7th, 1896 in Philadelphia. It was reported that when the executioner had finished the preliminaries of the hanging, he asked, "Ready, Dr. Holmes?" To which Holmes said, "Yes, don't bungle." But the executioner did bungle, and Holmes wound up twitching at the end of the hangman's noose for over 15 minutes before being pronounced dead 20 minutes after the trapdoor was sprung. At his request, his body was buried in concrete so that no one could ever dig him up and dissect his corpse, not even his friend and mentor, the demented janitor. So what do you think? Should in-home gas chambers be protected under the Second Amendment? Should medical schools be more suspicious of students with a steady supply of dead bodies? Let me know in the comments below. And, of course, don't forget to murder that subscribe button and click that notification bell because I've got new content dropping all the time.